I'm here with Anita Forelli, who's written a fantastic book called The Big Butt. Anita, thank you very much for joining us. Tell me a little bit about the book first.
The main character of the book has been following the law of attraction for years. They've been watching films, they've been reading books, they've been watching DVDs in an attempt to improve the life that they have. The problem is that nothing is changing and they're not happy with the life that they have. Then one day, unexpectedly, they see their archer. And this is the character that is here to help them. Now, the archer's a bit frustrated with this human being that they've been attached to. And the reason is because the main character is an expert at using their butt, basically. And it stops them having everything that they want or everything that they really desire in life. And the only person that is stopping them from having the world and the life that they want to create for themselves is them. And this is an analogy that's true for a lot of people trying to use the law of attraction, that actually the only person that's stopping you having everything that you want is you. The book is an evolution of the film The Secret, I believe, in that introduced the law of attraction into mainstream media, which was great for a lot of people, but it stops at a point. And the concept of the archer and the lessons and the messages that I have in this book hopefully will fill in the missing 20% for people.
So the law of attraction, it's not a new concept then?
Absolutely not. We can trace this back 7,000 years at least. And it all started with the Egyptians and their beliefs in something they called mentalism, which is about our thoughts becoming things. Then we can fast forward through the Greek philosophers such as Plato and Socrates. There's quite a lot that they've written about it, through to Buddhism. Then really it starts gaining a bit of momentum in the Renaissance period in the 1400s. Then we come to the New Thought movement in the 1800s, where you may have heard of Ralph Waldo Emerson. A lot of law of attraction followers will have heard of his teachings. Then in the 20th century, you've got the early 20th century with Wallace D. Wattles and Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, was all around positive thoughts, thoughts become things, right through the mid-20th century, late 20th century, where you have Louise Hay and her book about positive affirmations being able to affect your health, etc. And right up until the 21st century, and the book The Secret, which was published and put out as a film in the early 2000s, and that brought the subject really into mainstream media. And The Big Butt is the next evolution of the law of attraction in that it offers a detailed, actionable guide to manifesting with the knowledge that you don't have to do this alone.
So for someone new to the subject then, what should they know, if anything, before sort of diving in to read this book?
The law of attraction is based on it's based on a number of principles actually. One of them is that our thoughts create our reality. Our thoughts become things, and the power of a thought is incredible. So when we're thinking constantly. The other concept is that the law of attraction never stops. It's working constantly. In the same way that an archer, with the main character's archer, never sleeps, never eats, never drinks. They're working constantly to give this character the best life that they can. And another concept is that like attracts like. So when you bring all these three things together, you have the idea that a thought creates your reality. So if we are constantly thinking, so why would you think a bad thought? Why would you want to create anything bad in your life? So by only focusing on having positive thoughts, and this is where a lot of people think that the law of attraction is a bit woo-woo and that it's just about having positive thoughts all the time. There is more to it, which I will explain later on. The like attract likes means that if you are having a good day, if you're grateful for things, if you're having a positive thought about an experience or something that's coming up, then like attracts like. You're going to get a positive response and a positive result from it. Thoughts, everything around us, so the sofas that we're sitting on, the mug that you drank your coffee out of, the car that you drove here this morning in, it all started out as a thought, and then that thought became a plan, and then that plan became a design, and eventually it became a product. So we see things from within, which are our thoughts, appearing in the world without, around us, constantly.
So it's those thoughts that people have is the key, is stopping them doing things, and it's the same thoughts that people might have to make a sofa, make a cardigan or whatever. It's that you're saying it's sort of a similar thing. Things come out of our minds, and it's that's driving.
Absolutely. I mean, we can take it down to, let's look at a gate. How many of us have a gate coming into our house or into our drive, or you walk through a gate or you walk through a door? That all started as a thought. Somebody, long time back, and in the book, the archer is very invested in gates. Sometime, a long time ago, there was perhaps a farmer in a field and their cattle kept escaping, so they put some wood across it or they put some rocks across it. But then when they wanted to get the cattle out of the field, it was difficult. So they came up with the idea of a gate. Maybe they fashioned it out of some pieces of wood, I don't know, but it made getting in and out of the field easier. So that started as a thought. How can I create something that will make getting in and out of this field easier for me? It was just a thought. Then they may have written it down as a plan, or they may have just built a prototype gate and fixed it up and just sort of had a look at it. But now gates are commonplace, you know, they're everywhere. But that started as a thought. Somebody was looking for a solution to a problem, and that solution started as a thought. You can take it even further and look at airplanes. I mean, one flew over just now, but an airplane, that started out as a thought. Somebody wanted to be able to fly, and then that thought became plans. From those plans, they resourced all the materials they needed. They put all these materials together, and then that became an airplane, which we take as commonplace nowadays.
Why did you write the book, The Big Butt?
Well, that's a story in itself. I didn't actually sit down to write the book. I can take you back to one warm Saturday in June, quite a number of years ago now, and I sat at my laptop ready to pay my bills. Opened my laptop, it was 9:30 in the morning, when almost immediately I saw some relatives walking through the patio door, through the back gate in the garden, through the patio doors. I jumped up immediately, offering them a coffee, as I knew they both drank coffee before 12 and tea after 12. When they laughed and said, "You know we don't drink coffee after 12. I was a bit confused, and I said, "Well, it's 9:30 in the morning," to which they replied, "Anita, it's not. It's 4:30 in the afternoon." They asked me what I'd been doing, and I had no idea. I looked down at my laptop and I said, "I've been paying bills." But when I looked at my laptop, all I saw on the screen was the words, "The end." I turned to them and said, "I appeared to have written a story."
And that's how the book happened?
That's how the book happened.
It's called The Big Butt.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it called The Big Butt?
It's called The Big Butt because the main character is incredibly good at using the word but, and that is the reason that their life isn't as good as they want it to be. When we use the word but, it's an objection to something. So in essence, whenever you have a sentence and you use the word but in it, you strike through or you wipe out everything you said prior to it. For example, I would like to learn to paddleboard, but I'm not a very good swimmer. So you could change that and say, I'd like to learn to paddleboard, and I'm going to have a few swimming lessons before I decide to go out in open water. It changes the energy and the vibration of every desire or everything you want to do. If you can get rid of that word but. And these buts are deeply ingrained in us. They come back from they're also known as limiting beliefs, and I'll talk about that later. But the buts, and it's all around the word but. And the more you use it, we've been using it for years. I use it all the time. But the more you use it, the more you recognize it. And when you recognize it, that's when you need to challenge yourself, and because that's identifying a limiting belief for you.
I think we all find ourselves sort of having that sentence and not really thinking too much about, we put a but in that sentence, which is, as you say, a self-limiting belief. There's actually a really interesting concept that you've got in the book, which is of this archer, and you've alluded to the archer a few minutes ago. Tell me a little bit more about the archer and why it is there.
When I read the book back to myself, the concept of the archer was completely alien to me. I'd never heard of this before, so I decided to do my own research. When I started looking into it, I discovered that Zeus had created daemons to protect mortals who were his favourites. And these daemons were deities that were benevolent beings, and their only job was to be with a mortal human being from the moment they are born until the moment they die, giving them everything that they desire. And the concept of the archer in the book is that he actually says that the main character airbags all the time. So they're trying to give them everything via arrows, shooting arrows of desire at them. But the main character is really good at airbagging, inflating an airbag. Every time you say the word but, it inflates this airbag, the arrow shoots off and goes somewhere else, and you don't get what you really desire. But also there's a second idea around the archer, and the second idea around the archer is that when an archer takes a shot, they have to be focused. There's a stillness for a moment where they line up with the target and they have to be focused on their goal to do it, which are all really good analogies for using the law of attraction in your life, because you need to align your thoughts, you need to align your emotions, you have to have the belief that you're going to do it, and you have to have your goal in mind.
I think you've sold it to me, but I think there are some people that are probably watching this and they've watched so far and they've seen what you do that still might be struggling with the concept. What do you say to them for them to help them get into the subject, to help them? Probably would be reading the book, of course, but what would you say to them?
The law of attraction has been around for a long time, and it may be a new concept to some people, and there may be others that have been reading about it, looking into it, researching it for decades. But there's always still, I mean, the lessons in this book surprised me and have helped me with my law of attraction journey. And I think that's the thing, there's always something to be aware of. I think one of the key things is that you're not alone in this journey. It can seem quite a lonely journey, especially if you're surrounded by people who view it as woo-woo, or as one of my brothers calls it, the manifestation mumbo-jumbo. So it can seem a little bit lonely, especially if you're not surrounded by people who have the same ideas or beliefs as you. And people do have their own beliefs and their own ideologies, and some of us are searching for something to believe in, and I choose to believe in an archer who is benevolent and who absolutely wants the best for me, and I've got to work with my archer the best way that I can to give me what I want.
I think beliefs are interesting subjects in themselves, and if it helps and doesn't harm anyone else, then that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And this definitely, from what I know and having spoken to you, definitely helps. So for people that actually want to get into this and want to find out a little bit more, what can they do?
Oh, they can read the book. That's a starting point. I mean, I've created a whole range of things around the book to help people, because why would we not want to live our best lives? That's the way I look at it. The book is available. It's on Apple Books, it's on Amazon, and it's on Barnes & Noble, Nook to read it. But I'm really conscious of the fact that people don't always have other people to talk about this subject with. And so I want to create meetups and meetings, online meetings, where people can talk about their successes, and also maybe where they're struggling with the law of attraction and the concept of it, and have in-person events where people can talk to me about the book and ask me questions about my journey through the law of attraction.
I mean, that is absolutely fantastic. I know that we could talk a lot more, and we will talk a lot more about the book and about the law of attraction. But for now, Anita, it's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.